Hey guys, TizzouSC here, back again casting more StarCraft 2 games. Today I'm going to bring you a Protoss vs Terran on Metalopolis. Spawning at the 12 o'clock position, our Protoss player, Freedom, spawning in kind of a foresty green, versus spawning in the bottom position. We have JunwiPrime, a member of the Prime team, a Korean team. Another member of their team would be PhantaPrime, known as JunwiPrime. JunwiPrime is spawning in the, we'll call that pastel pink, kind of a pinky color. Just taking a quick look at both players to note on these positions, the 12 vs 6 is going to be the longest air and land rush distance you're going to come across. Looks like Freedom just going to throw a pylon right at his ramp. Kind of interesting placement because you generally don't want to have anything too exposed for a Terran player to be able to shoot up at you and do any kind of damage. So kind of an interesting decision already. Our Terran player decided to put that supply depot in the back. Once that protected, no reason to wall off against the Protoss necessarily. Both players just continue on producing nothing but workers because you can't produce anything but workers this early in the game. Surprise, surprise. Looks like, yep, gateway going down right on 12. Very, very standard stuff. Jumping back here, barracks going down on 12 as well. And immediately going to the gas, it seems. Yep, gas going down. Looks like we're just seeing a very typical start. I imagine we'll see orbital command after this barracks, and then we'll see how he's going to transition from there. If he's either just going to go with a nice little bio push, or if he's going to opt to just expand maybe, or even go into some further up tech. You just, a lot of times, the bio ball is very potent against a Protoss army. Protoss player throwing up the assimilator, second pylon going down, and finally now after the second pylon, gas and gateway is starting his scout. A very late scout. Our Terran player has yet to even begin scouting. Very interesting that both players are pretty sure their opponents are not going to be doing any kind of crazy cheese at an immediate tech lab. Not a single Marine comes out of that. And he's already up. Oh, nope. Orbital command going down. I was saying he's up to 200 minerals, and there goes the orbital. Right on time. It's going to be interesting if he's going to go straight to Marauders, if he's going to do some kind of minor Reaper harass in the early stages of the game. Taking a look at our Protoss player. Cybernetic Core on the way. Doing everything that you would expect from a Protoss player versus a Terran. Jumping back to our Terran player's base, orbital command is almost done, and let's see what he's opting to build. Reaper. Yes, we are going to see a Reaper. He may or may not opt to get the Nitro pack. I would doubt it. I would be very surprised if we saw that. He's probably just going to try to do a little bit of early harass with this Reaper. Finally getting to Terran's base, he's probably now going to be aware that the tech lab is already out there. Didn't see a Marine. He's probably expecting some kind of Reaper because you generally want to build a Marine even if you're still going a Marauder. And the Probe wisely decides to escape. Reaper decides not to show itself and chase that probe, going right to Freedom's base. SCV running around, Zealot being created, and now Crony boosting on the Stalker. This Stalker is going to be there well in time to prevent this Reaper from doing any damage whatsoever. Very interesting to see this Reaper as the first move for him, especially given the positions. SCV gets away with his life. Stalker and Zealot, and almost another Stalker done before this Reaper's even going to make it there. I don't know what kind of damage this Reaper's going to be doing. There's even a pylon on the cliff expecting this, and a very quick expansion for Junwi coming down. That's going to be the trick. This Reaper is mainly probably just to keep him on his toes and keep him from going too far to scout this expansion. This is a very early expansion. Throwing down two more barracks. Looks like, yep, concussive shell on the way, working on Marauders. Jumping back to our Protoss player's base, just checking this Reaper. Reaper not deciding to jump up and doing more damage, still concentrating on a Stalker-heavy army, adding on a Zealot now. Gateway going down. Doesn't look like he's going for any kind of robo-technology, just getting that second assimilator now, so I imagine we're going to see some kind of warp gate push out of him, possibly, maybe with a proxy pylon. Reaper getting in here, trying to do a little bit of poking around. Mainly, I feel like he's just keeping the pressure on to keep that Protoss player from guessing about that expansion. Reaper has to get away. Stalker about to finish it off. Nope, gonna just miss out on that opportunity. Warp gate technology is just about done, so he'll be able to produce quite a few more units, and the Terran player's base is now up and operational. Not doing any kind of drone transfer yet. Probably imagine we'll see this turn into an orbital command. Small drone transfer going out. Still operating on only barracks units, building two more barracks with a tech lab, one with a reactor, so we're going to be doing two tech lab, one reactor. Stim is just now started. Concussive shell was already finished, and this one pesky Reaper is still doing all the scouting in the world. Knows the Protoss player is trying to expand. Protoss player coming out to finally finish this Reaper, but no, Reaper has too much HP to be taken down by one shot. The Stalker is not going to be able to keep up with the Reaper. Oh, actually, the Stalker just barely able to keep up with that Reaper, but now the Reaper has gotten away by jumping off the cliff. The Stalker cannot follow any further. Jumping back to our Terran player's base, reactor is now done producing up to 3 barracks. One roof reactor has yet to transition into any kind of factory play, hasn't even begun the factory yet, up to 272 gas. Very interesting. We'll see what he decides to transition into, if it's going to be Ghost or if it's going to be some other kind of mech army. Nexus almost done. Still looks like he's concentrating mainly on land gateway units, and now finally the robo facilities being added on, as well as a pylon just to cover this back entrance. He doesn't want anything dropping in the behind the smoke, where he wouldn't be able to react to it extremely quickly. Excuse me. Looks like he's just going for an observer. Very kind of standard stuff. He wants to be aware of what the Terran player is doing, not going for a quick immortal because he's not afraid, I guess, of some extremely early bioball push. Just to be sure, we're going to quickly flip to the Freedom cam, turning off where he's looking, and he is quite aware of that expansion. Jumping back to the Everyone cam, here we go. Expansion in full array, taking up this income tab. 34 harvesters to 34, but our Terran player is still ahead due to mules, just by a couple hundred minerals a second, but that still adds up quite a bit. Finally adding on a factory, a 4th barracks being added on, so it's going to be a bio-heavy army. He's concentrating on fully barracks units. A couple Marauders just poking around. They didn't actually get anywhere to do any damage. None of them have taken any damage, so they never actually made it over there. Observer finally halfway across the field. Going to see what this Terran player is up to. Jumping back to his Zerg player's base. His expansion is finally operational. He's got all 4 gas going. Concentrating on Zealot Sentry mainly army. It looks like he's probably going to maybe transition into Charged Zealots, I would imagine, if he's getting so many Zealots. But no, actually going Colossi, because he's throwing on the Robo Bay. Yeah, no Twilight Council. I was figuring he was going to go for some kind of Charged Zealot Sentry play. I've seen that play before, but no. He's going to be going straight to Colossi. Doesn't even look like he's producing an immortal, just producing more observers. Jumping back to our Terran players based Marauder heavy army. This army would be extremely potent against the Stalker heavy army, but our Protoss players going mainly to Zealot Sentry, but still Marauders hurt gateway units very good. Very well even. I don't know which one it is. Somebody can tell me in a comment of rage for me making that mistake. Looks like he's going for that. Yup, going to be making a Medivacs off the reactor, so we can have a very Bioball army. Still hasn't added on Ghost yet. Finally now getting his upgrade, +1 just being started for weaponry, and looks like he got a little bit behind on his supply. 3 supply depots going down all at the exact same time. Marauders and a couple Marines heading out across the field. They already have combat shields, concussive shell, pretty much every upgrade imaginable. Stim, of course, the most important ability. And here we go, our Zerg player. Colossi just gets finished. This Colossi is probably going to come out just in time to prevent this attack from doing any damage. But Marauders are still very tough to be melted by Colossi, adding on 2 more gateways, bringing up his gateway total to 4 gateways, and as well as getting this extended thermal lance upgrade. And nope, Terran player decides to back off, decides it's no good to attack. Too early, he says. Has an SCV up here just a spot for whenever the Protoss player prepares to take his 3rd expansion. Observer being as pesky as possible, double Medivacs being produced. Maybe he was just waiting for those Medivacs, but the Observer sees the Medivacs and knows that they're heading out somewhere. Producing double Vikings now. This is interesting. These Vikings, maybe they're just for spotting observers and killing them after a scan. He may be going into a Raven next. But it's interesting that he's deciding to go that route, because generally you figure that there's not a whole lot of air. Actually, excuse me, very simple answer to that question. He is going those Vikings to deal with the Colossi. Don't know why I didn't think of that instantly sooner. I was going, oh, he doesn't have any air units. Colossi, they are massive, and the Colossi in particular take damage like they are, or excuse me, take damage from either air or land. So Vikings with those missiles do terrible, terrible damage and really chew up those Colossi. And here we go, dropping down the back of Freedom Space. Marauders, and finally being interactive, but getting quite a few Harvesters, bringing the Harvester total up. Excuse me, the Harvester total was actually ahead for Freedom, but took a couple off. Production tab is now back open. +1 just now finished, backing up. Actually saved all of those units, didn't lose a single unit. And it looks like he will now be getting that charge for the Zealots, I would imagine, but I could be wrong again. Yep, charge for that Zealots going down. Those Zealots just get kited so hard by Marauders. You need that charge to really make them effective in the late game. Just another closer look here. Looks like he's going to be starting upgrades relatively soon. He's thrown down the Forge. It may just be for cannon so that when he does move out, he isn't afraid of any kind of drop. Jumping back to our Terran player's base, operating off of 4 barracks, adding on that armory now, possibly for upgrades, maybe a Thor. Still producing dropships. 2 Colossi, pretty potent army to deal with a bio-heavy army. But is it going to be enough units? Bring up the Army tab, 137 to 133. Very even game right now. Production tab back open. Planetary Fortress is on the way to prevent the Protoss player from doing any damage to this 3rd expansion. Just going to take a quick look. Nope, the units are just moving around, doing a little bit of scouting, not doing anything too exciting. Finally preparing to take this third expansion for our Protoss player. Very interesting game so far. Yep, it looks like he was just going for cannons and also going to get the upgrade at the same time, but he wants these cannons so that when he moves out of his base, he doesn't have to be afraid of any possible drop doing terrible damage to his SCV line and really hindering him and forcing him either to have to back up or commit to a base trade. Still producing Colossi. Charge is almost done for the Zealots, and now adding on Templar Archives. That Storm is going to be great against the Terran units, especially Marines, but our Terran player is going such a heavy Marauder army. It's still going to be tough, even with Storm and Colossi. He needs to be adding on Immortals to deal with those Immortals to deal with those Immortals. No, Immortals to deal with the Marauders, but a very heavy might Vikings. We're already up to 6 Vikings right now. Those Vikings will make short work of these Colossi if they actually decide to move out across the field. Already up to 3 Colossi. Third base just now being started. He set up the pylon, set up the defenses, but delayed this Nexus. This Nexus finally being started. And a 4th base going up for our Terran player, opting to skip the 2 closer bases and going right for the one across from the Protoss player's base. I don't know if he hopes it'll stay hidden or if he's just planning on putting it aggressive and if he's just putting on the aggressive front with these two and allowing these 2 bases to be simpler. And yep, same time, double expanding. He's going at the gold right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he throws up another one even to make it 5 bases the way he took this forward base here. But now the advantage of taking these 2 bases first is this 3rd base here is much easier to fall back on. You can always come back and backtrack and take it later. This